This episode, we are going to talk about our new road gear.
That's right. So listen to why, how, and where you can get it all on this episode of the Jewish Road Podcast.
Every tribe, every tongue, Emmanuel, your king shall come. End of sorrows, end of pain. Come and praise Creator's name.
Hey, Shalom Chavarim, and welcome to this episode of the Jewish Road Podcast. My name's Matt Davis, and look at you. I'm looking at you.
Oh, yeah, here I am. I'm still here. Still here kicking. I'm Ron Davis.
There we go.
The elder statesman.
That's it. We're going to get that on your door and get you a name tag and your business card, your new title there. It'll be fantastic.
Okay, I can't wait.
Yeah. We have something exciting to talk about. And we've mentioned this or hinted at this a little bit before. If you know us, we are fashion guys. We, when there's new releases out there in London, Paris, Milan, we are usually front row. We love good fashion, right?
Yeah, that's why this is just audio.
That's right. Well, actually, I have the cameras on over there.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. What do you happen to be wearing there today? What brand is that?
This is my LL Bean.
It's always LL Bean.
This is my LL Bean.
That's right. That's right. We don't need to see it all. But if I actually walk in, you know how teenagers, when they get bored, they start scrolling social media. Every once in a while, I'll walk into your office and I see you scrolling LL Bean. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's your favorite thing.
Hey, just wait. It'll be your favorite thing in a couple of years.
I don't know about that. I just think is it because it's warm and you're always cold? Is that the idea?
Well, I mean, that's one thing, but it all just is comfortable.
It's comfortable, right? Yeah. It's a good, durable, American-made product.
I should be getting something for this.
Hey, LL Bean, if you're out there, we are looking for sponsorships. Yeah. Thank you very much. So we want to talk to you about, and when we say our road gear, what we mean is that we launched a little clothing line, not because we needed another thing to do or because we are fashionistas. We are not, but we have a message to say with it, and we're going to leverage clothing, which most everybody wears all the time, every day, to be able to get a message out there. So we'll get into that in a second, but I just want to. We thought this might be an okay time. It's been almost 40 episodes since we've done this, and we're going to have a little return to the Catskills moment. I'm not saying that we're going to do this every podcast episode from here on out, but man, I think every once in a while you need a little laughter.
Yeah, it's a part of Jewish life, and we haven't done it in a while, and so we're going to go back to the Catskills.
Which means if you're brand new here, you got a little Jewish humor for us.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah. I'm just telling, some people don't know what that means, so I was just helping them out a little bit.
Well, that's where all the Jewish comedians started, was in the Catskill Mountains in upstate New York.
Yeah. So since it's been a long time and you've been sitting on this perhaps for a while, I'm expecting some top shelf humor here.
Oh boy, here's the pressure.
All right. So this is yours. I said, we should have a little Jewish humor for this. And you said, I've got one. And I said, all right, don't even tell me.
This is an old story, and I've known it from a while back, but it just came back up into my recognizance again.
All right.
And so this is it. And, with all the politics that is going on, I think this is really appropriate for the time that we're in even today. So this story is about a rabbi and a Hindu priest and a politician.
Never heard that combo before.
And they went hiking.
Okay.
And they were out for a while, and before you know it, it was nighttime, and they were exhausted, and they couldn't find their way back to their hotel. So it wasn't on the map anywhere, so there was a little farmhouse. They knocked on the door and asked if they could spend the night there. And the farmer said, of course, sure. But I only have a small room with 2 beds. One of you is going to have to sleep out in the barn.
Okay.
So the Hindu priest said, I need no material comforts. I will gladly take the barn.
Oh, I didn't know you had a Hindu priest accent in the repertoire. That's pretty good.
It's the best I could do.
All right.
So the rabbi and the politician were settling in to their beds. Once they started doing this, they heard a knock on the door. Yeah.
I got a little sound theater going on here.
They opened up the door
Yeah.
Just to find the Hindu priest standing there. And he said, "I'm sorry, fellas, but there's a cow in the barn, and I can't sleep beside such a holy animal." So the rabbi says, "Look, no problem. Listen, I'll take the barn." So the Hindu priest and the politician are getting ready to go to bed. They're settling in, and they hear a knock on the door.
Oy vey.
Again. They open the door, and there's the rabbi standing there.
Of course.
He says, I'm sorry, boys. There's a pig in the barn.
Oh, no.
And I can't sleep next to such a filthy animal."
Jeez.
So the politician says, all right already. Let it be remembered that I sacrificed my comfort for the greater good. So he goes out to the barn. The rabbi and the Hindu priest are settling in, getting ready for a night's rest. And they hear a knock on the door. And they open the door, and there's the pig and the cow.
That's a good one. And what did they say? I'm just kidding. Hey, that was worth it. That was worth the wait.
That's good.
Oh, man. I like that.
It's always good in the Catskills.
All right. That was good. I'm going to say that. I just got to find an audience now.
Yeah.
Good job. All right. Well, thank you for listening to the Jewish Road podcast. That does it for us today.
See ya.
Just kidding. All right. There's the knock at the door. It's Kay. Sarge is here. All right. We started a clothing line. We originally called it apparel. That sounded kind of fancier than clothing line. Did you ever think when we started the Jewish Road that we would have Jewish Road clothing?
A clothing line?
Yeah.
No. That's what we used to hang our wet clothes on out of the washing machine in the old days.
Yeah, still joking. I think the impetus, the thing that got us started with this was really, it got started with there's such a voice out there in the world against the Jewish people. I saw a video last night of some guys in black, dressed all black. They have masks on their faces, and they're carrying around swastika flags. I thought, my goodness, what awful European country is allowing them to do that? And I noticed it was here. It was Ohio.
Yeah.
Like just the next state up from us right here. And I just thought, man, there is a voice out there that the enemy is controlling the airwaves, and it's a helpless feeling. How do you combat this voice and put out a voice of truth and to stand up and to stand for the Jewish people? And out of this helplessness, I think we just thought, man, there are so many great messages, and people wear something, and it's a walking billboard. How do we actually combat that? And so that birthed this idea of, if we're going to wear something, what would we wear? What would we want to say on what we're wearing?
Yeah. And so we birthed this clothing line of, what should we say, T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies,
We got a couple polos because you like the polos.
Yeah. Polos.
They're not
polo
LLB,
shirts.
but
yeah.
And some hats. We got some hats in there in the mix as well.
Yeah. And, we're making a couple of statements on this apparel that, we've been wearing a lot outside. And I was in a store the other day, and one guy saw my hat, said, "Still chosen." And he said, "I like it."
Oh, that's good. I mean, it could go either way.
Yeah, it could. Right? It could. I'm ready for anything.
Yeah. And we will be unpacking this a little bit more as we hit some further episodes and more to come. But, we've really figured out, kind of reverse engineered, what is it that we're doing? And we've figured out that we are to be a light, to be a voice, and to be a blessing. And so this episode's really focused on what does it mean for us to be a voice, and why is it needed to be a voice, especially as a time as this. And we have friends who have said the sins of our fathers and the sins of the people around us is that nobody spoke up when they should have.
Yeah.
And so this is something very simple that you can do, that you can actually wear a piece of clothing and you can be a voice. And I, even as I put it on and I go out there into the world, into the wild, I just realized like, I'm saying something. And most of the time when I'm out there walking around, I don't want to be noticed. I don't want to say anything. And so it's actually an act of, there's some courage and bravery in there. And I joke that like, well, somebody looked at your hat and they said they liked it, but it could totally go the other way around.
Yeah. They could say, what do you mean still chosen? Who are you?
Yeah. So, we picked, this is episode 116, and Romans 1:16 has something to say. Yeah, right?
I am not ashamed of the gospel of the Messiah. It is the power of God unto salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek.
That's right. And so this idea of let's not be ashamed, let's lift up our voices. And if we can actually do that by getting some clothing out there, and we'll tell you by the end of this, how you can get it. But right now we want to just unpack what's on the shirts, on the sweatshirts, on the caps, on the polos, what's on there and why we chose these. And when you actually put them on, somebody says, what is that? That you have something that you can say to that end. And we'll tell you at the end, how do you get it? And what does it go for? This is not, we're not a money-making operation here. So there's good that comes out of it. So,
right.
So one design, one set that we have, has the words, know your roots.
Right. Yeah.
Why?
Well, I think it's important for believers to realize where they came from, because as I always like to say, there's this continuity between Jewish history and salvation history, and if we only pick it up at the cross in the New Testament, we miss a whole bunch of history that really belongs to believers in the New Testament as well. And so knowing your roots is to go back to that establishment of the covenant that God made with Israel, with the Jewish people. And it was the same thing that Paul was emphasizing when he was speaking to the Romans in Romans chapter 11, right?
Yeah.
Well, the whole book of Romans, really.
Yeah. And you look on our website, thejewishroad.com, and you're going to see right across the top, reconnecting faith to its Jewish roots. And so really we exist to help Christians rediscover their roots. And we want to also invite the Jewish people to meet the Jewish Jesus on this road. We want to tell this whole story. And part of that story, it means that there are roots that you have to know. You are grafted in. The church is grafted into the soil of the Jewish faith, the Jewish heritage.
Right. And unfortunately, for such a long time, for centuries, a lot of the church has operated as if there were the Jewish roots of the faith were not necessary, or that they were irrelevant, or even a hindrance. And so, we want to step into that conversation. And that's one of the things that takes place when, we wear a shirt or a hat and somebody sees it. It's a conversation starter. It can go, with a positive or a negative comment, but either way, you have something to talk about.
Yeah. So, in Romans 11, Paul is talking to the Romans, and this letter, it's really foundational to understanding our place in God's redemptive plan. But chapter 11 is pivotal. If you haven't read Romans 11, pull out your Bible and check it out, because he's describing this cultivated olive tree, and the olive tree is symbolizing Israel, and talks about Gentile believers are grafted in. In Romans 11:16 says, if the root is holy, then so are the branches. And so what does that mean? It means that if the roots, God's covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, if that is holy and set apart by God, the branches, both Israel, who are the Jewish believers, and the wild branches, the Gentile believers, they share in the nourishment and the life of that same root.
Yeah. So when we're talking about that root and that tree, we're not talking about a new tree. It's one tree, and the church is not a replacement for Israel, but a continuation of God's unfolding story.
Yeah.
As we go forward.
Yeah. But the problem that we have is that we've forgotten our roots. And so, if we have this great split that took place 2,000 years ago, I think you go into most churches today, and the church is operating as though the Jewish roots of the faith are either unnecessary, they're irrelevant, and sometimes they're even a hindrance. And the result of that is that there is a disconnect from the richness of the biblical story. And so I think a lot of times when we're speaking to people and we're talking about the Jewish roots of their faith, it's as if they are hearing for the very first time this connection to these roots.
Yeah. It's interesting because, if you were reading a story, for example, imagine you're reading a story to understand, you're trying to understand a sequel without reading the original book. And, you might get glimpses of the plot, but you'd miss the full depth and the meaning and the foundation of the story. And that's exactly what Paul is warning against. He's saying in Romans 11 and verse 18, don't be arrogant toward the branches. If you are, remember, it's not you who support the root, but the root that supports you. So to know our roots is to humble ourselves and recognize that our faith didn't begin in the first century, but it began long before that when God chose Abraham and set his plan of redemption in motion.
Yeah, and we get that in Genesis 12. He says, I'll make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whatever or whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Or in other translations, in you, all families of earth will be blessed. And so this is not just a promise about land or descendants. It's about God's plan to redeem the entire world through a people, through the Jewish people. And so through Israel, we have the word of God. It says that in Romans 3. We have the promises and the covenants. It says that in Romans chapter 9. And we have Yeshua, our Messiah, Jesus, in Romans chapter 9.
Yeah. So, you might be asking yourself, why in the world do roots matter? I grew up in the Christian church and, life is great.
Mm-hmm.
I know all of the Bible stories and all of that. But there is a sense of, knowing our roots reminds us that we're part of something that is greater than ourselves. We're connected to God's chosen people and that is God's unchanging promises. The Bible really, as we look at it, is one unified story. Knowing our roots and bridges the gap that is between the Old Testament and the New Testament. So I don't think that we're supposed to live just in the New Testament. If you're a Christian and you've lived there your whole life, that's why we have this ministry that talks about a 2-act play, Act 1 and Act 2. Act 1 is the Old Testament, Act 2 is the New Testament. We need to have both of them to have the full story. So understanding our Jewish roots helps us combat a lot of things. One thing that it helps us combat is replacement theology and anti-Semitism that grows out of that. And that has really plagued church history for many years. So we need to remember to hold close the promises of God, stay close to his covenant people, and honor the God who chose them, really.
Yeah. So what does it mean to know your roots? It means that you recognize that your faith is built on the foundation of the history of Israel. It means that you get to embrace that Jesus was Jewish and the context of the Bible. The people who wrote the Bible were Jewish, and they wrote this in the land of Israel. Take a shovel anywhere in the land of Israel, and you're going to dig up some Jewish history there. When you do this, you are going to stand with Israel as God's chosen people, knowing that the story is not over. And as spiritual heirs, the story of the Jewish people becomes your story. This is part of your story. And so really with all of this and knowing your roots, it's not just a message that gets seen as you are wearing this, but it's a reminder. Anytime you put this on is a reminder, even for me, I put that on to remember the roots of my faith, right?
Yeah. And so, everything goes back to that covenant that God made with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And I think that we're seeing in today's church, there is a growing hunger to rediscover these roots. We see a lot of excitement when we talk to people about this all of the time. You say, why is that? Well, because understanding where we come from gives clarity about who we are and where we're going.
That's right. So we want to be still rooted. We want to be still growing. And as we wear these words, know your roots, we get to proclaim, and we get to shout out to the world that we are connected to this story. I get to be part of this story. It's a story of the faithfulness and the redemption and the hope of God. So, that is Know Your Roots. We have a little bit more of that written out on a blog. You can go on our website and check that out. But we also wanted to just tell you the other one that you'll see, and maybe this will be just a massive line, and LL Bean will pick it up, and we'll have all kinds of.
That would be great.
It'd be amazing. But the other kind of set of designs that we have are based around these words, still chosen. And I can just say the line, the Jewish people are still chosen. And that is a loaded statement. It raises eyebrows. It causes people to ask questions. It might even stir emotions.
Yeah. It is definitely a profound statement, and it's a truth that's rooted really in the scripture, going all the way back to the beginning of our history. So we're proud to wear it. The road gear, we call it, the Still Chosen shirt, not just as a slogan, but as a declaration of God's faithfulness. God is the one who made the covenant. This is pointing to God, and it's pointing to the people that he made the covenant with.
Yeah, I remember Marilee and I, we went to a marriage conference over a weekend. I think it was one of those weekend to remember things. And at the very end, you get to kind of renew your vows and you make a recommitment. But we saw like out, they have the tables with all the books and stuff that you can buy. But we bought a sign that we loved, and it's actually still up in our house. But the sign says, "We still do." And thought that was a good thing to be able to just say, because,
after I do,
which was, a good 20 plus years ago, to be able to come back all these years later and to say, well, we still do. That's the idea. This word "still" is amazing. It's not like this is a thing in the past. Does God still love his Jewish people? Does God still love Israel? Is God still faithful to this promise that he made a long, long time ago? Well, the answer is yes, he still does. And the Jewish people are still chosen.
Yeah. So I think one of the greatest tragedies in church history has been the rise of replacement theology. And that's the idea that the church has replaced Israel in God's plan. So it implies really that God's promises to the Jewish people are null and void. They're over. It's been transferred instead to the quote unquote Gentile church. I put that in quotes because I don't see a Gentile church in the scriptures. I see Jew and Gentile making up the called out ones, the body of Messiah that we call the church, but it's Jews and Gentiles. At least it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, and then you have this great passage, and really I think Paul is motivating a lot of what we think, because he's asking some good questions. Romans 11, he says, "I ask then, has God rejected his people?" He says, "Forbid it not. May it never be.
Yeah.
By no means. For I myself am an Israelite, a descendant of Abraham, a member of the tribe of Benjamin." And he goes on and he's describing the Jewish people as this natural olive tree. But he's saying, look, this is not a replacement. It's not an erasement, if that's even a word. We can't erase, we can't replace the Jewish people because they are still God's chosen.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, the Gentile at his conversion is spiritually grafted in to the good olive tree and becomes a partaker, not an all-taker, with the Jewish believers.
Oh, that's good. Say that again.
Yeah. The Gentile becomes a partaker and not an all-taker with Jewish believers. So the Jewish people remain central to God's plan. I remember years ago, one of my mentors was Charles Feinberg, and he quoted a passage out of Genesis, I think it's Genesis 9, where it talks about the tents of Shem will be enlarged to include Japheth. And Shem representing the Semitic, the Jewish people, and Japheth representing the Gentiles. He says the tents of Shem will be enlarged to include Japheth. He never intended for Japheth to kick Shem out and take over the tent.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I like that.
And so, it has stuck with me over the years. But, this is God's plan, that the Jewish people are to remain central in his plan, and the Gentiles come in and they partake of that with Israel.
Yeah. So, the big thing that really started this for us is what we see today is rising anti-Semitism. I think that for one of the least populous people on the face of the earth to have the greatest number of hate crimes, it's up around 70%. Here, I think in the States, as far as population goes, as far as we take on all of the highest percentage of all the hate crimes here in the States and worldwide, of course. Yeah. But the Jewish people today, we're facing a growing hostility, right? And so you go from the Holocaust to modern day anti-Semitism, and the forces of darkness, the great puppet master behind the scenes, is trying to destroy the Jewish people, yet the Jewish people endure.
Yeah, it's amazing that the Jewish people encounter the greatest amount of persecution, being the least amount of people on the face of the earth.
Yeah. I mean, God says in Deuteronomy 7, I didn't choose you because you were anything great, but because you were least. And if God is ever going to do something, he's always taking the smallest, the weakest, and he's going to make something great out of it. And so this really is the testament of, and the motivation behind, the heart behind this idea that the Jewish people are still his chosen people, still called to bless the nations all over the earth.
Yeah, so there's really a call to action here. There is a call to action to Israel, but there's a call to action in this age, at this time, for you as believers to stand with Israel, to pray for Israel, to stand with Israel. It reminds me of the words of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He said, not to take a stand is to stand. Not to speak is to speak.
That's right.
And so we are called. We have a great calling that is upon all of us. If you are a believer and you name the name of Yeshua, the Messiah, you have a great calling on your life.
Yeah. So, it's interesting because we had some Israelis out here to Lexington this last weekend, and we got to talk to them. But one of them, it was interesting. She was, her name's Sasha. She's from Russia. In fact, actually, they just heard, they've heard this story. That was our last episode that just came out or is coming out as we speak. But one of the things that Sasha said that I've heard this my entire life, but to actually meet somebody who's talking about it, she grew up in Russia and at age 15 finds out that she's Jewish,
right,
and then is working in the gift shop there off the Sea of Galilee and is meeting Christians. And these are not Christians who want to kill her as a Jew. Was shocking. She says, who are these Jewish people? And it's really provoked her to actually study the scripture, not just the Tanakh, the Old Testament, but the New Testament, the Brit Chadashah.
Yeah, you said, who are these Jewish people? I think you meant, who are these Christian people?
Oh, that is what I meant. See, This is why you're here. Yeah. I need lots of help.
Okay, now I can leave.
But when you put something like this on, you get the attention of the Jewish people. You get to bless the Jewish people, and you get to, they're going to ask this question, like, why is it that you as a Christian are standing with us? And that's noticeable. Not only are they going to notice that, but God notices that. And so really that is the heart behind all of the road gear. If we are on this journey together on the Jewish road, we invite you to come along with us, and we have a lot of this. There's a lot of different styles and sizes and colors and all that stuff. I think we maybe went a little bit overboard for our first time out, but it's out there.
Yeah, the sweatshirts and the woodies are really warm now that winter's coming.
Sweatshirts and woodies, or the sweatshirts and hoodies?
Did I say woodies?
You did say woodies. I didn't know.
We're getting too mixed up here.
Yeah, that's right.
Better not open the door. It might be the cow and the pig. I don't know.
Well, I thought maybe that's some 1950s term. I think you used howdy doody.
Well, there was. We had woodies. The surfers had woodies in the 60s and 70s. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No. So we have the hoodies and we have the t-shirts. There's even some long sleeve shirts in there. But if you go to thejewishroad.com/gear, or just go to our website, it's there's a button right there at the very top, and you can get this. And a couple things you're going to see. Number one, this is not, it's not cheap. And it's not cheap for a couple of reasons. Number one, we didn't get chazarai, right? What's chazarai?
Junk.
Yeah, we didn't get junk. So this is not junk. This is good, high quality stuff. It's not going to fall apart after your first time going through the washing machine. So we did get good quality stuff. But the other thing is, that all of the proceeds that are going to this is being directed, not, we said that we want to be a light, to be a voice, and to be a blessing. And actually you can buy one shirt, you can buy one sweatshirt, and you get to do all three. But all the proceeds from any of the road gear that we sell, we just funnel that over, and we use that to bless the people of Israel. In fact, we just sent out some payments out there to do anything from helping IDF soldiers who have been hurt, or even their families. In some of them, they've lost limbs, and so their homes need to be reconstructed. A little bit like tunneled towers. We're getting New Testaments out there. We're supporting ministries that are going on the ground doing evangelism in Tel Aviv. There are people who need to be relocated or even brought back into their homes who are evacuated. And so all of these are ministries that are not only helping and blessing the people to renew, to restore, to enrich their lives, but they're also doing it in the name of Messiah Yeshua. So we're sending all the proceeds from that are going that way.
I think it's an important point for the people to recognize that none of that comes into us. That's not part of our operating budget, but it all goes to Israel, and we have been blessed over the last couple of years of support that has come in, and we just encourage you to do that, to get some of this road gear, the shirts and the sweatshirts and so on. And the money that you put into that, all of the profit of that will go over to the land of Israel to help people there.
Yeah. So it is the season, by the way. There is no Black Friday sale here, but we just encourage you. If you know some kids, grandkids, yourselves, we've all purchased some and have a bunch of that laying around. I think we're probably going to get some more, just even for our family, but take some pictures and tag us on social media and let us know that you're wearing it, and get the word out. Be out there and be a voice. And by doing that, you are not only standing up for hate in the world, standing up against anti-Semitism, but you're standing with the Jewish people. You are helping to be a voice here. And we do that until the Lord returns, and until there's peace here again. We say Shalom, Shalom, Yerushalayim.
Pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Shalom.
Shalom.